All right. Thank you for attending and or watching in the future episode 15 of Worldwide Slot Car Chat. I'm your host, Greg Gaub, and we're going to go ahead and introduce those people who are here. And John is then going to do a demonstration of resin casting and whatnot. And so he will take it away. John, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll have Lloyd and Dave.
Okay, hi, John Kidd from Toronto, Canada. Been in slot cars for a long time, and I thought I'd just show you some of the different molds that we make and how we cast, and I'll be doing that while you guys are having a chat. But I wanted to sort of show you how it's done in real time. Sorry.
Cool. Going to look forward to that. All right, and Lloyd.
Hello, Lloyd from England. As you all know by now, I do 1/43rd scale, and it's late here. That's about it.
That's all we need for quick intros. And Dave Kennedy?
Well, I'm Dave. I worked for a few companies, and now I don't. So there we are.
Are you no longer with Skill Extra?
No, I got let go in March.
Oh, I was unaware.
Yeah.
Not especially surprising given the pandemic situation. So.
Yeah, given their financial situation too.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll bounce back if you haven't already. So let John take the stage. I am going to spotlight him and take it away, John.
Well, I'm putting the first part of resin in basically a Dixie Riddle cup. They have more of a use than you think, I guess. So all I'm doing is measuring out by pipettes. So I'm just going to do 7 pipettes of each part A and part B. Hopefully you can see that. Let me move it over. What is that? Oops, over here. Oh, there you go. There, you can see that now. There we go. So that's part A. Now, one thing that I do so I can see how well the mold is working is I take a wee bit of tint. As you can see, the label's been obscured, but this is black tint for resin. And you don't really need a lot of this because you want it to be gray. You just want to make sure that you can see that it's working. It sort of looks like the gray Airfix plastic once you're done. I know it'll start black, but just put all you need is a little drop. That's all you need. And put that into part A and mix it in thoroughly. Here we go. So let's just, I feel like Julia Child, sort of Julia Child who's making middle-aged men nervous. Here we go. All right, so that's part A. That's, I know it looks black, but it will actually, once it cures, look gray. All right, so now we're ready for part B. There we go. And we're going to use 7 pipettefuls.
Is that pretty thin?
Sorry?
Is that a fairly thin liquid that you're doing there?
It is, yeah. I mean, this is technically part A, but you should really mix the thick part first. Anybody counting? That's 3, 4, 5, 6, and one more. 7. There we go. All right. And a little, I'll show you kind of different molds that we're going to do here, but you don't really have to stir it up a heck of a lot. And you want to keep the viscosity low, especially for smaller parts. That actually is about as much stirring as you need to do. Put that to the side. Grab another pipette, and these are small parts that you'll see. I don't want to give them away, but you see that there's 2 holes, and inject. See all the bubbles coming out? I don't know if you can see that. There we go. There's one. That's injected. Isn't that cool? Let me get the pressure pot ready. And hook it up to the compressor. There we go. Open up the pressure pot. And what we're also going to do, let's do a big mold. This is a Ferrari 158, 1/32nd scale body. That takes about 5. 5. Let's just do one for good measure. Slosh it around a little bit, but it's a 2-part mold. So that's part 1, and here's the second part. And you basically, because it's silicone and you can move the darn stuff, just, it gushes all over the place. And that's okay, because you're not going to get any air bubbles. Put that in the pot right away. There we go. Put the small pot in. What the heck, let's do a Lotus as well. There we go. That should keep it going. Over here, slosh it around a little bit. Here goes the second part. Let's all hope these come out. Boy, if they don't, I'll be. Oops. Okay. Then. One more. And you can also squeeze the mold and basically squeeze all the air out, which really helps. All right. Okie dokie. One more. There we go. That's just, for demonstration purposes, that'll be fine. I have put, hopefully you can see this. This is actually a paint pot for painting automobiles. And it has a little pressure gauge. So I'm going to now put in compressed air and take the internal pressure up to about 25 pounds per square inch. Got a ball valve here, and you introduce the air slowly. I don't know if you can hear that. And we're at 22, 3, 4, 5. It's done. Let it go. And in about, well, we'll give it 30 minutes. We should have our parts to take out of the pot and demold.
3 minutes for curing.
Yeah.
Wow. So your work time was almost 3 minutes.
Well, yeah. The pot life is about 15 minutes. You got about 15 minutes to work with it before it goes hard. And the other thing too is you're always going to have like a little bit left over. So you can see how it's already, the viscosity is increasing.
And does the pressure speed that up?
It actually slows it down, but what you're doing under pressure is you're trying to get any sort of air bubbles out. So for example, that's a really good point. What we can do is, let's do a mold without the pressure. I've got one here. Let's just fill it up here anyway. There we go. So there's no pressure here whatsoever. Theoretically, the bubble should go to the top, but inevitably, unfortunately, sometimes you get bubbles not only within the material itself, but also caught within the mold itself. So as a comparison, we'll just do one without pressure, and we've got a few with.
Wouldn't a vacuum chamber make more sense?
No, generally speaking, you use a vacuum chamber, which I have, when you're actually making the silicone or mixing the silicone for the mold. So when you put the two parts, the A and the B in for the silicone, and you're mixing it like a cake batter, that's when you vacuum out the air so that you have a really nice, that's why these, if you look at these molds, they're really, really solid. There's no air in there whatsoever. So basically you vacuum for the silicone and you pressure for the resin. That's the general rule of thumb.
One of the other questions that jumped into my head was, It looks like you're in kind of a basement shop. Do you
Yeah,
have,
that's what the scale car garage is. It's a basement shop. Yeah.
sure, but is there ventilation required for that kind of resin, or is it not a toxic?
Actually, no. The chemistry is quite relatively inert. The only real sort of safety issues, quite frankly, are skin and skin irritation, which is why gloves are in order. But as far as ventilation and a mask or anything like that, no. In fact, what's a lot more toxic for your lungs, believe it or not, is if you ever use, you know, the body filler, the Bondo stuff. That
stuff smells like.
I guess, yeah, that's nasty stuff. This stuff is not at all. I mean, I wouldn't drink it, but as far as vapors, relatively, basically zero.
Huh, interesting. Well, does anybody else have any questions for John before we demold things?
We got some time. Anybody want any figures?
Yeah, right. That's a really cool process you did there. I like that. I haven't ever seen that done before.
Ah, well, let's fingers crossed that they actually turn out. That's why I did some before, just to show you that yes, this does work. I just don't. Pardon the pun. I've never really worked this like this under pressure. Tough crowd. Tough crowd.
Yeah, right.
Sure, you're
that's pretty cool.
Cool, but you can really get really tiny parts as well. Like for example, this is basically a repop of the Airfix BRM. Hopefully you can you see that okay?
Yep.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then here is the back end with the gearbox and the exhaust.
Wow.
Yeah, and then here is, if you can see in the middle here where my finger is, that's where this part goes in, which is the oil tank, I believe. And that actually, because the pins are there, because it's a two-part mold, it just snaps right in, like so. Let me get this right. Hang on, there we go. There you go.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that.
So it snaps right in.
Wow.
So there you go. That's, oh, and of course, you know, the bundle of snakes pipes that go in the back here. So that's all. I mean, the real time eater in all of this is actually making the mold. The more time you take to make the mold, the easier the parts are made. And I imagine, you know, Greg, in 3D printing, it's kind of the same deal, right? The more you spend on your file, I imagine the better the part.
Yep. Your pre-preparation is definitely the most work.
Right, and I just also pulled this out because you don't necessarily always need a two-part mold. Like for example, these are all wheel inserts. So those are the BRM wheel inserts. I don't know if you saw the video where I took the monogram Shelby wheel and turned it down into an insert. So I did that with my Airfix and got inserts for the BRM. So the fronts and the rears, because they are different. So that's there. There's some Ferrari Formula One here, Brabham. But again, you don't need anything on top. You just have to be very careful with the way that you put the resin in the mold, and then under pressure, you get a wonderful little wheel insert.
So for that one, you'd probably put it in the pressure thing before you put the resin into it.
No, same methodology.
You're not gonna
same methodology. Yeah,
trying to get it in.
It works.
I guess that's a pretty solid mold that you can just kind of hold on the sides and then put it down into the.
Well, the amazing thing about once you sort of put a liquid under pressure, it literally just goes right into the mold. Here, let me show you some. I had baked these previously. I hope you don't mind. Let me see what I've got here. Oh, I've got a whole bunch of different kinds of Lotus. Find the ones I was actually talking about. That would help, wouldn't it? Talk amongst yourselves.
Sounds like a school teacher, doesn't he?
What's that, sorry?
I said, you sound like a school teacher. Maybe it's the haircut that did it.
Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. No gum. Anderson, I see you throwing that spitball. Oh man! But here, let me show you a few here. Just I don't want to get resin on this thing. But for example, Oh, okay. So that's why I have to make some other ones here. Here are some, these are, the monogram Barani inserts. And so
Wire
sometimes,
wheels, yeah.
yeah, there you go. So
Hold it up
we
real
get,
close to the camera.
oh, I'm sorry. Does that help?
Do what we did with
Yeah.
the figure.
Oh, okay. Wait. What if I did my hand like that? Would
There
that help?
That's it. We can see it now. Yeah.
So that's what. So you get a little bit of. Oh, you have to take a bit of the back off, but the detail's all there. So that's the, and then I actually have a separate mold for the knockoff.
And John, the pressure keeps the air bubbles out of that, because every time I've done.
Yeah, it actually
Insert.
compresses the air bubbles. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it actually destroys them. Yes.
Okay, I must try that.
Yeah, it works, and you don't need a lot of pressure. I wouldn't go any higher than 25 psi, or you've got to make a thicker mold.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
and then especially for the bodies as well. Now, the only requirement for really, really high pressure is when I actually cast my own wheels. So these wheels, they may look familiar to you folks. Let me see if you can see that.
You have to get it closer to the camera, John.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
There you go.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see, but there's actually a set screw.
And you cast it with that hole in it?
No, well, there's a dimple for where I need to drill and tap the hole. But this resin is actually called Task 2. It's got the same tensile strength of aluminum once it's cured, but you have to cast it under about almost 60 psi, which means you have to over engineer your mold. In fact, I can show you the wheel. I don't know if I have a wheel. Should be, oh, they're actually back there. Yeah, I can show you the mold if you like. But what's really cool is that they're true. You put them on the car, and the most expensive part of this is the damn grub screw. I think it's almost like $1.50 each.
Yeah, they are expensive.
Yeah, hang on.
Well, it depends where you buy them.
I actually got mine as cheap. I got them from an industrial supplier called Brafasco here in Canada, and that was the best they could do for me.
Wow, what size are they?
Ah, shoot. Hang on. They are, I can tell you here. I like this. Oh, that's a socket set. Oh, here they are. No, back it in here. I bought a whole bunch of them. Oh, they are 256 set screws. There you go. Thankfully, I wrote that down. So, there isn't anything you can't make using this. Now, if you combine, for example, 3D printing with this method, so if you 3D print something and it comes out just spectacularly, and you want to make multiples relatively quickly, it's, I think, a combination of those two methods, and you'd have, you'd be close to production. This is really rapid prototyping on steroids. That's really what this is. Is there anything else I can help with?
Well, I'm wondering if it's been long enough to demold those.
Yeah, we need at least another 10, 15 minutes. I don't know if you want to change topics, and I can jump up and down.
Do you sell those?
Sell what? Sorry.
The cars and the bodies.
Yeah, well, this is what I taught my daughter how to do for her. Well, for example, this is, I'll get a sprite she's working on. I know this is painted, but this car was done in exactly the same method. So this is a 1/32 scale bug-eyed sprite. She's painted it white. She's got to do a little bit more work to it, but this is the way it comes out of the mold.
Hold up the camera, John.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, better.
I'm sorry it's white because it's tough to see. Actually, you know what? I have a gray one that.
Huh.
Hang on, sorry.
That's pretty cool.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
hang on a minute. Here we go. So this is how they. In fact, this is a really good example of how they come out of the mold. There's a little bit of flash. I don't know if you can see that.
Real close, real close.
Real close.
There you
See
go.
the flash
Much
is
better.
still in the wheel wells there.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So just pull that off, and look with your finger, it's gone. But this is the way it comes out of the mold.
Wow.
With the interior, that's
really good.
That's awesome.
And what you're doing really is you're taking full advantage of the material you're using. So you're using nice, flexible 30 shore silicone. Take it to its full advantage so you can get undercuts like this without any lines whatsoever.
Wow.
And all it is the more time you take making the mold so that when it comes apart, the piece pops out. I know you can see the gate here. See the flash? Yeah. So I think they call them gates. I'm not quite sure, but
yeah,
you basically build gates in the front and the back so that the top just goes boop, and the bottom just goes boop, and out pops your ready to use body.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much do you charge for the kits?
Well, actually, she doesn't sell kits. She sells finished cars. The sprites, I think, are $75 US plus shipping. But I mean, honestly, we've never even thought about selling them as kits because you can see that we've molded in things specifically for her chassis, but they've got mounting posts. I mean, if someone can use them, I have no idea. I'd have to talk to the boss.
You have a 356 Porsche?
That's on the bench.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, we were looking at doing two. One was although it needs a lot of work, the old Aurora. That's the coupe. That's a really cool version.
Yeah.
And then there's the Tommy version, the 356. I guess it's like the Roadster version. That's on the bench over there.
Very cool. That's awesome.
What else is it? But you know, she's done other cars. Hang on a minute. One moment, caller. So here's one of her finished cars. This is a Ferrari 340. The yellows did not sell as well as the red ones.
Up close. There you go. Oh, look at that.
Wow, that's really nice.
So those are our own tires. They're 40 shore urethane pop-offs of Ninkos. Those are our wheels, inserts, and knockoffs. It's got a full interior.
Wow.
And front engine. They actually run really well. They're a lot of fun to drive. They're not very fast. It's about, you know, it's like a Ninko, like the original Ninko cars.
Yeah.
You can see that somebody has younger eyes than I do, so I don't know if you can see the figure, but it looks pretty good.
That is really good.
Yeah, goggles and everything.
Yeah, she's talented. I'm really proud of her, but yeah, so these turned out really well. But as I said, and then I think she did 2 or 3 versions of these. There's a split windshield and there's a one windshield, I think. But as I said, the red one sold fairly well. This was actually in Model Car Racing magazine, actually. Robert did an article about them. It was a while ago.
Are the grills etched?
I beg pardon, sorry?
The radiator grill, is it etched?
No, that's plastic. It's actually, that's the way it comes out of the mold, and then she painted the insets black and the top chrome silver.
Looks good.
Did I mention she has young eyes?
Yeah. Eyes and hands.
Yeah, as I said, if I wasn't so proud, I'd be jealous as hell.
Yeah.
Her paintbrushes don't shake yet.
Yeah. Not vibration paintbrushes.
Yeah, really. And then, but her first car actually was the XK120, which I got over here. One moment ago.
Looks like my shop.
I wouldn't be walking around barefoot in my shop, that's for sure.
Oh, it's nice actually. It's nice and cool. So we kept the very first production car, which ended up being red. And this was very, very heavily based on the Highway Pioneers model. But we actually drive this, which is why it's got some love nicks in it. But again, same.
Close, John, up close.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Here we go.
And again, you can see the detail in the driver.
My goodness.
And that's the way. Again, that's the way this body comes out of the mold. It comes out in one piece.
left-hand drive Jaguars just don't look quite right.
I beg pardon?
Say left-hand drive Jaguars just don't look quite right.
Can I see the wheels, please? Can you show me the wheels on it?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
You probably go closer.
There you go.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that's good.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, like just a steel wheel without a
It is.
Yeah.
It's a steel wheel insert.
wheel
Yeah.
cover. Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually made one with the sort of nub and then one that's recessed, so just as it should be.
Wow.
Cool.
That's really nice work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. As I said, I'm really quite proud. And then she did some work on the front headlights because the headlights of the kit weren't very good, so those she revamped.
Yeah.
And again, the grill is right out of the mold, and it's just painted as it comes out. Black inset and silver around the edges.
And
But this car is the wrong color.
It's the wrong color.
Be green,
It's,
right?
it's supposed to be green.
and right-hand drive, of course, Lloyd.
Yeah, no, I know. You know what? It's funny because the red one's really sold. It was resale red, but okay, one moment, because I'll show you the prototype. There we go. Prototype. What is the prototype? Oh gosh, here we go. Ah, son of a fish stick. Oh, here it is. I'm blind. Here we go. Okay, Lloyd, hopefully this, I know it's not exactly British racing green, but it's a lovely green.
Oh, it's a nice green, yeah.
Yeah. And especially with the chestnut interior, it really is nice.
It suits the car, yeah.
It does, yeah. Is that better?
Yes.
Now, the reason that we didn't put this into production was because she mixed this and couldn't remember how it was mixed.
Oh no.
Yeah, she just did it and went, oh, that looks kind of cool, and then shot it. And went, oh man. Now, I don't know if you saw in my videos how the sort of parting or the bonnet line and the door lines are sort of got paint in it. I hope you can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is my daughter doing it versus me doing it. Like, if you look at that, I mean, it turned out so nicely.
Yeah, it looks good.
And again, it's a front motor with rear drive. Got a little bit of play in the chassis. And that's it. That's the. Oh, we're getting close here. We're getting close. So, do you actually? Would you? Any of you chaps be actually interested in just bodies and stuff?
I think
Yes.
there's a market for it.
Okay. Well.
All those guys that build their own chassis.
Do you
Yep.
want to see the prototype of her next car that's supposed to be out this fall?
Of course we do.
All right. I am going to get in deep doo-doo for this, but
There's no audience for this anyways, so
I know.
it's
But
yeah.
you know, I always tell her when she gets upset with me that I outrank her. This is the prototype.
TR3,
Triumph
TR4.
TR4.
Ah, look at that thing.
The
Did
thing I
that start
really
up?
like. What's that? Sorry.
Sorry, carry on.
I was going to say the thing I really like about it, honestly, is the stripe, which is painted.
Yeah.
Pretty, pretty, pretty.
And as you can see, it'll come in both left and right-hand drive. And the way that the body, again, just like the Sprite, this is the way that the body comes out of the mold.
That's very good thinking. Yeah.
Even the door handles, which just, I don't know how she did it, but it freaks me out, but she did it.
That's some very good work making the
Yeah.
interior in it as well.
Oh,
Beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, she's great. The other thing, and it makes a lot of sense because I talked to her about how, you don't want bits flying off when it hits a wall. And even the lights are molded in and painted. So you can really race and bash the body and it should hold together quite well. The only thing that's glued onto here, honestly, are the dashboard Like even, you see the gear lever, guys?
Yeah.
The gear lever comes out of the mold. Yeah. Actually, let me see if I've got a body that I can show you here. Yeah, I think I do. Hang on. Okay. Sorry about the mess. I was getting things together so I could show you folks. I'm going to be in such trouble. Okay, so this is. I hope you can see that. This is the way the body comes out of the mold. This is actually, you see the air bubble there? So this is a reject. But you can see the gates here. This sort of part of the car acts as a gate. There's a gate in the front. I hope you can see that. And can you see the gear lever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way it comes out of the mold.
Yeah.
Including the lights. And of course we had some air pockets here on the grill, which was a bit of a pain in the butt. And that was just a flow issue. This is a very early shot.
Is this based on an Airfix?
It is indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And you can see about tinting the resin so that you can see where all the imperfections are, so you can hopefully get more flow in the mold.
I don't like working with white resin. I can't see what it's doing.
Oh, I'm completely with you, Lloyd. It's agonizing. You get it and you think it looks really good, and then you put some paint on it and you go, oh crap. Yeah. So just to show you that this is kind of going into production, folks. Here are some production bodies. There's going to be here's one that's in the midst of being painted. And here's so it needs a running mate, obviously. So basically red with a white stripe, white with a red stripe.
Yeah, it's good.
So the goal is to try and get these out in the fall, but I mean, I wish I could be more of a tyrant with her, but it's really tough.
I'm sure she has nothing better to do.
Yeah, I know. I mean, she has a full-time, part-time job and a boyfriend. Like, I always thought that girls would take guys away from modeling, but in this case, it's the opposite. That's nice to know it works both ways. So there you are. And then we did some other color tests. If you guys want to see it, it was a yellow color test. And I think they call this mallard blue in the Triumph world. I'm not much of a Triumph guy, but the blue just, she didn't like it. The yellow was kind of okay, but her favorites were the red and the white. She's a Canadian through and through, folks. Oh, wait, there's one more. Oh, I forgot about this. There's a blue that she thought about as well. Sorry. There's a blue as well. Hold it up.
That's nice.
Yeah, very nice work.
That thing's crying out for a white with a green stripe and number 44s all over it.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. Oh, I wanted to show here. Hopefully you can see this, but I'll take the test shot. But can you? I don't know if you can. Hopefully see the door handles there. It's kind of tough, but you see there's like this little piece of flash, and she takes the tip of an X-Acto knife and pops it through, and then the door handles is complete.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good planning on the preparing that for molding. Yeah, it's good work.
Yeah. Oh, thank goodness, Lloyd. She takes after her mother. And so there are other parts in here as well, but I think I'm in trouble for showing this a little ahead of time. But I have to tell you, I'm really proud of this. I hope you guys like it.
Do you make the drivers?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the head here is a repop of a 1/32 scale Cox driver. And the body is basically started off as a lump of clean clay that she carved and made with an arm that would fit on the steering wheel, and then molded it. I don't know if you're familiar with clean clay at all, but it's basically, it's kind of 3 steps above plasticine.
And you sell those for 75?
Sorry, say again?
You sell those at 75 bucks?
These will be on sale for 75 US. Yeah.
I'm going to want one.
Okay. Oh, maybe that'll motivate her. Thank you, Luft. I appreciate that. Anyway, I hope you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be too boastful, but oh, hey, let's. Oh, wait a minute. We're just in time. Here we go. Actually, can I show you one more thing?
You have the stage, John.
Okay. So, and again, I have to say that I'm not going to be derogatory at all, but she almost had a deal with Nissan. We had a series in Ontario and Quebec for the Nissan Micro Cup. And she actually sculpted this. I just want to show you the sculpting skills here. I don't know if you can see that, but that's automotive body filler to create the car, and then silver and black paint to basically get the right shape of the car. And this was the prototype car. This was the car that she actually sponsored for one season. That only lasted one race because the driver decided to roll it at turn 5 just before Moss Corner. So we presented these to the PR chap at Nissan, who thought they were great, just didn't want to pay for them. But that's the kind of stuff that can be done. Now, this is the only plastic chassis she's ever done, or resin chassis, excuse me. And they run really, really well. It's got one of those little 030 motors in it. And it runs like a Micro Cup. It tips over like a drunk on vacation. But anyway, I thought I'd show you that. Sorry.
No, that's cool.
Okay, let's see what these things turned out like.
What else is he going to find?
Right. Keep digging, John.
Okay, hang on. So let's let the air out here. Let's see what we got. Okay, you know what? Let's. So hopefully you can see that, and you see all the resin on top, and all you do is just basically take that off and throw it away. So let's see if we got a body here. Stretch. Whoop! It's still a little. Oh, it is a little. We're a little early, but that's okay. It'll be fine. It's for demonstration purposes only, right? Yeah. Okay. We're a little early, but there you go. There's a Lotus 33, 1/32 scale.
Up close, John.
Sorry.
Closer.
There
we go.
So there you go.
So
It's
is
still
it
a bit soft, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did pull it out rather quickly.
What's that? Sorry?
You did pull it out a bit quickly there.
I did, yeah. So it's okay. As long as I'll leave it on the second part of the motor, it'll cure. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then we have actually, and this is a Chris Walker trick for the intake trumpets. We use those little metal ferrules that he uses all the time, and they work a treat. So this actually is.
It's interesting that the resin went in black and it came out a light gray like that.
So this is this. So you too can have a Lotus 33 that looks like this, just starting out with this.
With a lot of work.
With a lot of work, yeah.
Well, a little bit.
Yeah, nice job.
But again, all the parts were, except that the suspension's brass. Well, you know about the car, so. So that's this body. Is that okay? Is that coming out okay?
Yeah, we can see it fine.
Cool. I'll put this back and then we'll see what the other parts turned out like. One more. Let's take out something smaller and see how they turned out. Oh, they are still a bit gummy. We're a wee bit early, folks, but what the heck. Let's go for it. I'm going to just cut the masking tape that held the two parts together. And as you can see, there is a, okay, I hope you can see that. That's a steering wheel.
Oh, yeah, very neat.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. I won't take it completely out of the mold as it's a wee bit soft yet, but that's okay. I think this is another steering wheel. So I think I just wanted to show you progressively smaller things that can be done. Let's see, I'll take this one. Ah, there we go. Another steering wheel.
See if you can go a little closer. There you go.
Yeah.
That one's got a wee bit of a blemish in it, but it'll live. And then these should be rear view mirrors for the Formula One cars. Let's see if they turned out okay. So you can see the mirrors here. I'll take it right out here. There you go. And you can see I molded it actually on the sprue so that it actually flowed just like the injection molded piece itself. These are the mirrors for the 1/32nd scale Lotus or any other Formula One car. And then you just take the flash off and away you go. So there you go. We did casting in real time, folks. Oh, wait, one more thing. This is what happens without pressure. Did you see the bubbles at the top there? You see that?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that's what you're suppressing when you're casting under pressure. So this is actually a fire hydrant. Let's get this open here. And you can see how this casting has, you see the, like some serious notches in it. It's not a great mold. It's not a great output. So this is what happens, generally speaking, without casting under pressure. Whereas if I did cast this under pressure, there would be essentially no bubbles. It would have been a solid piece of resin and ready to use. So I hope that helps you guys.
Very informative.
One more. Oh, got the Ferrari. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's a bit early, but that's a little better. And by the nature of these bodies, actually, I didn't have to really vent the molds at all. They actually flow really quite nicely just from the two parts. Okay, let's see how well this comes out. There we go. Nice. And you can see that this actually has the intake trumpets molded in. And there's your Ferrari 158 ready to make to go on track against the Lotus 33.
Very nice.
So I hope that helps.
Certainly interesting.
Very.
Are there any other questions that I can help anyone with?
Hey, John, it's Ray. How you doing?
Good, Ray. How are you?
Okay, I was wondering if she still sells the Ferraris and the Lotuses.
Yeah, in fact, got a couple here.
Okay, I don't see them on her website.
No, you know what? She hasn't updated her website. Unfortunately, yeah. Do you have our email address, Ray?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll give you mine. You can email me directly. It's really easy. It's KIT 9161
Got it?
@rogers.com. Now, the only other thing I would want to mention is that we were selling a lot of the Formula One bodies. We make actually two versions of the monogram ones. These are actually the rescaled versions of them. In other words, monograms were a bit wide and a bit tall. These have been reworked. So if you want the originals, we can do that for you. Or if you want the sort of closer to 1/32 scale versions, we can do that for you as well. And don't forget, the kit also comes with a driver's head, mirrors, glass, inserts, everything. All you have to do is basically detail it and make a chassis.
Okay, thanks.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. If you want a full interior as well, we've got the bits and pieces for that. Most people use the drivers that are here. It's entirely up to you.
Is it leather or vinyl
Leather or vinyl?
interior?
Oh no, it's the original leather.
Vinyl covered cardboard.
No kidding, eh? No kidding. I don't know how those guys. I actually tried. I had one session in 20 years with like loose belts because I thought, oh, Jim Clark could do this. I could do. No, unreal. I don't know how those guys did it without any belts. They were crazy, just crazy. Oh, by the way, you can also see the. I guess let me show you. You see all the bubbles in the leftover stuff, and that's why you really want to cast if you can with some sort of pressure pot or something. It really does make a huge difference. Anyway, so oh yeah. By the way, Ray, if you're interested, there's also a BRM, and again the same bits and pieces. And there's also a Brabham BT7, which is, again, this is the scaled, like the 1/32 rescaled version, and we have the original repop of the Atlas.
Very nice.
So that's stuff that's already molded. And the other thing I also wanted to mention too is that if you go by the book, you'll notice that these molds look really, really big, and they're made like that purposefully because the thicker the wall, the more you can put pressure on, and honestly, the longer it'll last. I can't tell you how many pulls we've had out of these, but a lot. So they're really over-engineered. But if you're going to do something and you want a lot of pulls, if you're a little more generous than book values on your, I guess on your borders of the mold, it will last longer. The other trick too is when you've poured your mold, to cure it, I don't know if you can see here, I'll move the camera a little bit. We have a convection toaster oven. Apart from English muffins and croissants, once the mold is done, put it in the convection oven overnight at about 100 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much of the alcohol out of the rubber as possible. The more alcohol you get out, the longer this mold will last. So I hope that helps as well.
We use Lego for the boxes for the molds.
Oh, that's a great, oh yeah, well, that's a great solution. I can show you what we use. I mean, honestly,
I was just going to ask you what you
we keep a lot of her boxes, but honestly, she uses foam core because it's quick and you can put it together with, I don't know if you can see that, but you put it together with hot glue.
Okay.
So basically what you do is you take, because this was all clean clay, right? So you take this and you put it on some sort of flat purpose. Actually, I'm lying. For these, what we used, you're going to think we're crazy, but do you like Ferrari Rochers? If you do, and my daughter and wife do, they make an absolutely perfect mold box for Formula One cars.
Yeah.
They also make great foam boxes for, although this was a bit big, but if you can see that, inserts. Like if you don't have to build a box, don't. There's nothing wrong with using something that's kicking around. But if you have to, think seriously about a sheet of foam core. It's inexpensive, really easy to use, and you put it together with hot glue. And the great thing about hot glue is it makes it absolutely flow proof. Like the silicone will not get through it. And it's very light, it's rigid, it works a treat. So, I mean, Lego is great, but I was never even really good at playing Lego. It's a wonder I actually do well at slot cars.
I think the only good thing about the Lego is that you can, recreate the same identical size.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of having to cut foam core, you're absolutely right. It's a really uniform way to make a quick vessel for your mold. Absolutely. Yep. So there you go. Is there anything else I can clarify or help, or anybody want a really bad fire hydrant? I have 1/32 scale dogs as well. I think come in handy for these things.
Well, does anybody else have any questions for John before we pick another topic?
No.
I guess you guys didn't talk about making the molds today, right? I seem to have got on a little late.
No, we didn't actually. And that was again. I'm sorry. That was for expediency's sake.
No, that's fine.
Once a mold was made,
Cool. No, that's very cool. Yeah.
How quickly you can just get into making stuff.
I got on the call about 2 minutes after 4 Pacific time, and it looked like you guys have been going for hours already. But
We just started.
oh, okay. So that's fine. That's no problem, John. Because I was wondering how the heck you managed to keep the relationship between the inner and the outer of the two parts of the mold.
Oh, so did you miss the sneak peek then?
Yeah. Don't worry.
Well,
Okay.
Can you give us a quick rundown on how you would do a 2-part mold?
Sure, no problem. Well, here, let me show you. So here, for example, is, pull that up. You can see that that's a figure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
see that.
can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, and here's the second part of the figure. So a parting line right halfway through his body.
That's got dimples in it, so that's easy.
What was that, sorry?
You have dimples there to align the two halves.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. And that's basically, believe it or not, the back of a pencil.
Okay.
Yeah, really using high-tech materials here. And really this was actually, I guess, this was poured first. So the figure was immersed halfway into, whether you want to use clean clay, plasticine, whatever you choose to use. And half of his body was basically obscured. This mold was poured first. Then the clay was removed. And here's another little trick that really, really works. And I found out about this the hard way. Take the figure out as well and use mold release. Spray the entire area with mold release. Then put the figure back. And the reason that I really recommend spraying even the area of the figure with mold release is if there is some leakage, if something moves or the figure isn't pressed in enough, it's still usable. The silicone that seeps through simply just peels off. So then you pour silicone on top of the figure which has been sprayed with mold release, and it produces this piece, which slides in. Now, it's a pity I didn't use this, but what happens, especially with figures, is you try and have a 2-part mold with a press fit, and inevitably you get bubbles. And luckily, the bubbles are pretty consistent. So wherever the bubbles are on the figure, you just pop a hole, a vent hole. And what happens is, as you push this in with the resin inside, take a pipette and inject, as I did with the other mold, some resin in, the resin pops through, put it in the pressure pot, and you get a full pardon the language, a full figure. So that's basically a 2 mold process, and it works for any part. The wonderful thing about using silicone as your medium for making a mold is that you can get fantastic undercuts, as you can see, because the mold is flexible. So because it can just pop out like this, right? You see how that stretches? And it won't tear. You can get wonderful undercuts and essentially no parting line. I mean, the parting line is really the body itself. And with a well-engineered mold, you can get lots and lots of pulls. So the other thing too is, and I did this as well. I started with small parts to sort of learn how to do this. And what I didn't learn until later is that the hardest thing to cast are actually small parts. So if you could do small parts and you start with small parts, larger parts are just a piece of cake. They're duck soup. Anything else I can help with?
Did that answer your question, Dennis?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. That's great.
Oh, cool. No problem.
Wonderful.
So the pipes on the Lotus, they
What,
go
sorry?
into the pipes on the Lotus.
Yeah.
It looks like they go into the bottom part of the mold. How do you keep those from having bubbles in them?
Oh, hold on. The
Oh,
Lotus or the Ferrari. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Oh,
Yeah.
again, that's where the pressure comes into play. The actual air pressure will actually push the resin as it's still very, very, very much a liquid right into the contours of the
Okay.
mold.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can see it, but you can also see, hopefully, the sort of etching of the screen over the
Just stop moving it. Just let it focus.
sorry. Does that
A
help?
little closer, maybe.
Yeah, a little closer.
No, it's
There
Yeah,
you
we
go.
got it. Yeah. Yeah, very clear.
Beautiful.
You can see the detail there. Now, admittedly, when I made the model, I actually removed that and put a real screen in, but it's really kind of neat how the definition really is amazing. And you can see sort of like that oil. Oh, hang on, oops. Is that too close now? Come on, focus.
Let it focus. Yeah, we
There you
go.
So you can see the detail of the pipes, of the intakes.
Very neat.
And all the holes are there for I've got a resized screen, and so I hope that helps. Again, you can see the detail. I'll try that with this one of the steering wheels I made for us. Come on, focus, please. Too close. There you go.
Yes,
There you go. And that's the nature of the actual silicone itself. So what I'm using is a smooth-on product called Mold Max 30, and the 30 is for Shore. It's 30 Shore. And if you're wondering about the exhaust pipes of the Lotus, actually, I do have a mold, and I popped them out before the. Oh, here we go. There's just a wee bit of flash on it, but there's for the monogram Lotus 33. I just have to take the flash off, but those are the pipes.
Okay.
Too close?
yeah. It's not come clear yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. There we go.
That is, yeah.
So I just have to have the flash removed. And for the Airfix BRM, here are the intakes that slide in. You can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, give it a second. There it is. Oh, it's there we go.
Yeah, very nice.
So again, as I said before, I'm sure it's like building the CAD file for your 3D printer. The more time you spend making the mold, the smoother things go.
Very cool. Very informative.
Thank you. Well, I hope that helps. And again, anyone's free to email me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them or help you in any way, shape, or form.
The next time you need those 256 set screws, I can get them at 20 cents each down here.
Oh, the set screws, really?
Yeah, they're $4.05 for 20 at Fastener Express.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I bought them a while ago.
Okay. If ever you need any more. And,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And any of the guys in the U.S., Fastener Express it's a place down here in Southern California.
Okay.
They have a very, very large range of really nice, small sizes in metric and imperial sizes, in alloy steel and stainless steel if you want them, and even aluminum. Some of the fixtures. And they sell them in small quantities, and they're not expensive. And
Right.
their service, particularly in the U.S., is very good. I don't know if they'll ship to Canada, but if anybody in Canada wants them and you can't get them, then I can get them for you and ship them up.
That's very cool.
Yeah, Fastener Express is the place's name.
Fastener Express. Okay.
Google that, you'll find them.
Yeah.
I've been using them for a long time. They're really, really good.
And they're online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fastener-express.com.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you're interested or that I can help with or answer any questions?
Sounds like we're ready to move on to another topic.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
great.
gonna move up to the office and let things. I'll tidy this up tomorrow.
Okay.
So you'll have to excuse me for about 5 minutes, and I'll be back.
Well,
See you
that
then.
should give us time to talk. The other topic that I have written down here was from Slothead last week in the chat. He said, thoughts on Carrera F1 cars. I don't care for having the guide a third of the way down the body, but he's been talking to some folks who like them because supposedly that geometry is to let the rear wheels follow the same path as the front. Curious to hear other thoughts. I don't have any, so I can't testify as to the benefits or drawbacks of the Carrera F1 cars where the guides are really far back behind the normal position. Does anybody have any thoughts on that experience, Dave?
So the question was whether it was intentional to move the guide back that far and it made it better.
Yeah, beneficial, not necessarily intentional. Obviously, it was for whatever reasons they had to do it. But
I think it was because that was where they had to put the guide where they could fit it, and it trust me, I've talked about this in my videos. No one does performance testing. I don't know why people keep thinking this. Performance testing is not a thing, guys. Please stop parroting this. The world is not flat. There is no performance testing. Please stop.
At least among the toy manufacturers, Carrera's.
Well, but very little, precious little. Yeah, there's no such thing as no. Carrera never did that. Skellick never did it. No.
So with that being a given, I think he's wondering if it turned out to be a good thing. I'd always heard that was a bad thing. You wanted the guide as far forward as you could possibly get it.
Yeah, those cars are unmanageable. I raced them at the Formula One races that I did in Montreal at the hotel with some of the F1 drivers, and those F1 cars are not good. They're not stable. They don't corner well. The position of the guide means that the front end lifts out really easily, and then the guide lifts out even easier. So it's that's the worst possible. You need it as far forward of the guide as possible. Not even with it, or God forbid behind it. Makes it an unmanageable mess.
I'm kind of wondering what the people he heard that from were thinking, or what kind of performance they were achieving with it, that they thought that it was a good thing. Because
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, anybody got any ideas on that? Why he would think it was?
It depends how they're racing, Greg. If they're racing a bunch of Carrera cars and throw in a bunch of extra magnets,
yeah,
it limits the damage of a very short guide lead. If you're running heads up with a scaly or something that has a longer guide lead, and as soon as you take the magnets out, it completely changes the dynamics of the car. Short wheelbase car, short guide lead cars, wheelbase is actually, you know, sort of irrelevant in a slot car. It's really the guide lead. So from the center of the rear axle to the center of the guide post rotation point is what's known as a guide lead. A short guide lead it transitions quicker on short twisty tracks. So if you've got a little, like when we were kids and you used to do HO tracks, it's like, how much track can I possibly put in this, like around and around and around and up and down and left and rights and stuff. A short guide lead is not that bad. As the track gets quicker and the turn radiuses get larger, you're fighting an uphill battle. It's just too twitchy.
That makes sense that it would be, you wouldn't notice how badly they perform when you've got a bunch of magnets in there and you're
well, I mean,
it's like for like, you're not comparing it to other types of cars with.
Yeah, the other thing, it's horses for courses as well and track for track. If you have a track if you have a track with not very wide runoff areas, so there's no borders and stuff like that, a shorter wheelbase car will actually be a bit of a benefit, because for any given slip angle, a shorter guide lead car places its rear tires in a slide. For any given slip angle, they're not as close to the outside radius of the corner. So I know a couple of guys who run rally tracks, and you've got, you know, tumbleweeds and bramble and stuff right beside the track. So it looks like a rally track. You really can't slide the thing. A short wheelbase car can work there. But if you've got sufficient borders and runoff, you really get benefits by pushing the guide out a little bit further.
And that's definitely not F1.
Hey, Greg, that Ray here, that question was actually from me.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and the guys I was interacting with, you made a good point earlier that they do run magnets, and so that will take care of some of the bad behavior. But we were having this discussion. I went out to my track, took a corner of the drop cloth that's been on it for months off, and pushed a Carrera car around the curve and a Scalextric car around the curve, and you could see that the front spoiler of this Carrera F1 just described a much wider arc, and if it was on the inside lane of a R2, Scalextric's R2, it would shovel you off the track. The guy I was corresponding with responded with a video of 2 Carrera Red Bulls that he was working on, and showed them actually under power going around the track. And yes, they were going hella fast and looked like they had magnets, but he made the video go in slow motion where you could actually see that, yes, the rear wheels did approximate the same track as the front wheels, because they, of course, with the magnets, they weren't sliding that much, but it was an interesting point he was making, that the rear wheels, because of the position of the guide, the rear wheels did follow the same track approximately as the front wheels.
And that's basically because with the short guide lead, the slip angle is much smaller, which is what Chris was talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the front axle is in front of the pivot point, and so they're going to move in. They're going to move inward on a turn while the rear goes outward.
Yeah.
So it'll look more realistic especially if you're watching it in slow motion with the magnet car going really fast around the turn.
Yeah, what doesn't look very realistic is that transition as it comes off a straightaway into the turn, because the front wheels keep going straight.
Right.
They should be turning, right? And then they start to turn after the car's already started to turn. So it does look a little weird. It does help to coat the tires with fingernail polish or some kind of clear coating so that they don't have any traction, any grip. So the more grip you get, the more it's going to upset the front end of the car because of the fact that everything's turning and moving in the wrong direction at the front. Or if you could make them independent, that might help as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure independent would even be that beneficial, at least not as much as removing the traction so they can just slide back and forth. Because even if they're turning independently, if the front is just sliding back and forth like that, whether they turn independently or not is not going to reduce that. They're being shoved across the track basically by the pivoting action of the car.
Yeah.
So yeah, the first thing to do on those for better performance would be to coat the front tires, make sure they've got no grip at all, or lift them up a little bit if you can so they're not touching at all.
Yeah, I really, after getting two Scalextrics F1 cars, I got a Carrera because I wanted a Red Bull and only Carrera made them. And I even put a digital shift in it, but I really disliked the car because at that time I was rug racing and running tracks with no borders, just guardrails. And this thing would just run right into the guardrails on R2 and the front spoiler would pop off like it was meant to, but I just didn't enjoy it much. So it was an interesting discussion. I thank you guys for that input on it.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that you were the one who posted the question.
No problem.
Did you have any other questions about that?
No.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? I don't really have any other topics. We pretty much covered everything that everybody.
Maybe the car's just supposed to drive like Max Verstappen. Sorry.
That's okay. As long as somebody got that joke other than
Yeah, he had a tendency to put his front end into a barrier, especially at Monaco.
Well, or in Hungary. In the
Yeah,
rain.
well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, absolutely. As he said many times, it's not my car.
Well, does anybody else have any show and tell? Lloyd, you working on anything these days?
Well, this week has been all work on the track. Since I got all these little cars arriving, I've been trying to make the track suit the cars rather than the other way around. The track used to be very slippy, and the little Mini that you all saw last time, it's here somewhere. The Mini just couldn't get around the track with it slippy, so I've put a bit more matte paint on around the track, and the cars are now climbing around the track much faster than they were. But this little thing here, its wheels are so tiny. Can you see it? Oh, there we go. It is very tiny.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, try and get the chassis detail there.
Oh, very nice. What motor is that, Lloyd?
Well, that's the motor that you get in most HO cars, things like AFX. We use a lot of those motors, and they're very powerful. They give very good performance on all sorts of size cars.
Do they work well for your cars?
Yeah, indeed. The little Fiat 500 that I have, I use the whole HO chassis in it, but they don't give much ground clearance. But we don't run magnets. So
Now, do you get a bit of a magnet effect with the HO motor itself?
yes, with that particular motor, get it near the track, and they did a proxy in France. Was it France? Yeah, I think it was a few years ago, and all of our cars with the HO motor near the track won it. We were always getting the fastest times, things like Fiat 500s and things like that, because they were using plastic track with where the magnets worked.
Wow.
But yeah, we've got these days. There's a huge choice of motors.
Now, I also have to ask you about the wheels on that Mini. Where do you source them?
Let's see what he's got under there. I'm not absolutely sure where he got those wheels from, but they look a lot like the ones that I use from the little resin kits, static model kits.
Mhm.
They make white metal and they make resin.
Right.
The resin ones often used to come with what we call turned aluminium wheels. Nowadays, you're getting a lot more cast ones, but if you can get hold of the turned aluminium ones, and then these here have got his own 3D printed inserts. Let's see if I can get it near the.
Yeah, you've got mini lights on there, eh?
Yeah, they're 3D printed.
Nice.
And they're doing a lot more of those just lately. Don't know whether you can see them on this Renault. Again, very fine detail.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, you've got the 3 lug wheels.
Yeah.
Lovely.
They're all 3D printed. I can't hold it still enough. But
No, it's awesome. No, it looks good. That's
it's quite
really
good detail, yeah. And well, most of the time we're using things that are meant for static models. There's plenty available, but this little chassis, you obviously can't see much detail on the chassis, but it's all brass. It's very heavy, the Mini. But the wheels are just too small. It really cannot get around the track properly.
Have you, Lloyd, have you ever bought any of Colin Spark's 10-inch wheels?
The what, sorry?
From Colin Spark, RS Slot Racing, he makes some.
Oh, yeah. Those 10-inch wheels.
Probably close to a good 15 in 43rd.
They are, and I haven't got a car here with them, but Scale Extric's mini lights are about the same on something like an Escort or whatever like this. This one has inserts in it again, but the Scale Extric's mini light wheels are very similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are meant for the 10-inch ones for minis, they work out just roughly the right size for an Escort like that. I don't know whether you've seen this Escort before. This one come from Tilo in Finland, and the quality of build from Tilo is always very, very good. Let me take it back a little bit. There you go.
Wow, that is so nice.
Yeah, all of his bodies, he's a real professional in the finish. I think he sells a lot of body shows. Let's see what's under this one. I think that is a carbon fiber chassis.
Oh, and that motor looks like an 030, like a small mini motor.
Yeah, the 030 has been our sort of standard for a long time. The Carrera Go and SCX Compact, they all use that size motor.
Now, how do they perform against the HO motor? Is it about comparable or?
About the same. Very similar. Depends on the gearing a bit. If I can, I like to do sidewinders with the nearest 4-to-1 gearing as I can get, and then you get pretty good acceleration. But let me think. On the racetrack, you want a lightweight car, and if you have any of these motors in a very light chassis, they can be pretty quick. As I say, we don't use magnets, and with the urethane rear tires, they can be very quick. On the rally track, we need a bit of weight because those lightweight cars just sit there wheel spinning. This car, it's a very crude looking chassis, but this is probably going to be one of the quicker ones in the event. He just uses brass side rails and builds up around it. Not a thing of beauty, but works very well.
That looks. Did he make his own guide blade there as well?
No, that guide, Peter Pfister, who goes by the name of Foots, online on what's it called, Shapeways. You can buy a lot of these guides. They'll go try and get it.
Oh yeah. So is that's 3D printed then?
They're all 3D printed, yeah, and they are quite small but very, very effective, and they're also deep. And I'm trying to get the right angle on this.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
It's very deep.
Look at that.
About 7 millimeters, something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking at it in relation to the wheels. It's almost like a 1/32 scale guide.
Yeah. Oh well, most of our guides are 1/32 guides anyway.
Okay.
If you look at any of the commercial, but I think I have one of the more recent brands to have come out is WRC, World Rally Championship. They market these, and that's actually with the guide it come with.
Oh wow, oh geez.
It's been altered a bit because on my track, the guide has to turn more, but it's pretty well a standard guide on that one. But most 1/43 cars do not have swivel guides. Like Carrera Go all have pin guides.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the location of them. They're usually in line with the back axle or behind it. On a rally car, that's good. On a race car, that's not so good. But pin guide.
That's what Chris was talking about. So for pivoting around like a hairpin, for example.
Yeah, on my track's got very tight hairpins, 1 1/4 inch radius.
1/4 of an inch?
1 1/4, an inch and a quarter.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I was going to be like, wow.
I mean,
1/4 of an inch is a little bit small, yeah.
I was going to say that's one heck of a Scandinavian flick.
Yeah, but even this 4-wheel drive Volkswagen gets round.
That's 4-wheel drive?
It's 4-wheel drive. I'm turning the wheels at the moment.
Yeah. Wow.
That's one of Peter's efforts. Very strange, 4-wheel drive Beetle, but it works very well.
Did he use a double shafted motor or 2 motors or?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what's in there. He has a full lighting kit. It's got almost a full interior, and it's got a full lighting kit where the lights stay on for some time after the power is off.
Well, tell him that it needs a propeller so it can do in the water as well, right?
This one would sink. It is very heavy. I told them after the last rally, I said the problem with nearly all of the ready-to-run cars that they sent is they were too light. They just didn't have enough weight to get around the track. Wow. And they certainly needed to have urethane rear tires. And with the urethanes on, even that one, which is quite light, is getting around okay. But that was a Carrera Go, and it's been modified to have a swivel guide on it.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, though. I mean, as far as rear grip, if you really have to flick the car and rotate it around, how much grip do you really want? I mean, like there's...
Yeah. Good point. At one time, this track's been around for about 10 years, but it hasn't had a great deal of use. At one time, I used to think it had to have very slippy turns so that the cars could
rotate.
The back end could come round. As it turns out, I've painted them recently. The turns are painted in matte paint, and if I don't clean the track too much, the cars will slide around there quite happily. If I wash the track, then some of the cars grip too much and can't get around the turns. But the car I use for testing is a great big Mercedes 220 SE, probably one of the biggest cars you could get on there. And it slides around beautifully because it's got a lot of weight to it, a bit of grunt and a lot of power, and it just slides around. It hits every part of the scenery, but gets around all right.
That must be fun to watch, though.
Yeah, I had I don't know whether you've seen the name Fluff on Slot Forum and Slot Race Forum. That's Steve Patton. He was around my place today, and I was trying to teach him to drive the track. He got 2 consecutive laps without getting stuck, because you got to know there's so many different turns on it. You got to know where and when to put the power on and off, and it takes a while to get used to it.
You could have at least been his navigator.
Yeah. Anyway, he's learning to drive the track, and he found that if you're too gentle, you just can't get round there. So it's a bit like real rally tracks. You've got to know where to put the welly in and when not to.
Right.
Do you have pictures of your truck somewhere?
Yeah. What I was going to say is that Steve, when he comes next time, we're going to attempt to video these cars going round on the track. So, because the videos I've made up until now have been very, very poor. Trying to drive this track one-handed whilst holding a video doesn't work very well.
Now, yeah, actually, Lloyd, a good tip is if you can set up a camera on a tripod just to get a master shot first, of you guys going through, and then do, you know, different areas that are of interest. But a master shot would just really, really be cool.
Yeah. Problem with the shed, it's a long, thin shed, and there's another layout on the other side, so I can't get far away from the track. But if you look on my Slot Forum, anywhere where I've posted on Slot Forum, at the bottom where my signature is, you'll see a couple of links there that show some photos of the tracks. I can't remember what's on them, but I know there are some photos of the Little Monty track on there.
Right, yeah. I have seen some of the videos, and you know, it looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it was built to be difficult to drive, and it is.
As a photographer, videographer, a request of mine is to admonish people never to shoot vertical video again, please. Because this way, you see here, this is the way every TV in the world is. I've been all over Europe, and I've never seen video or a television like this before. So please, never ever shoot video like that with your phone. I know the inclination is to hold it like that, like you talk on it, but that's not how video is shot. So
right, it's all landscape, not portrait. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't have one of those phones, so I don't know how to use it. I've only just learned how to work the Zoom.
Yeah, me too.
It took me 10 minutes to get onto Zoom tonight because I couldn't get it to properly go online. It took quite a while. I don't know what I did wrong.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
Got in the end.
Does anybody else have any show and tell? Tony, I don't think you've been on before. You want to do an introduction?
Greetings from Sydney, Australia.
Hey, hello, mate. G'day.
You might know me as BOV in the proxy, in all the forums around the proxy world. And I've always been a bit of a timing issue to join you fine folk from around the world. So here I is. And I have a history with Dave going back to 2006, which he probably won't even remember, concerning SCX and an Aston Martin.
No, I can't say as I remember that.
What happened was, Dave, I covered the Australian Toy Fair for SCI, and part of that was a photo of the release of the DBR 9 or 9R, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And which didn't make it to Nuremberg. And we published it here. It got pirated by another slot website, and you sent me very kindly an email giving me some theory on what to do about it. So I've always remembered that, Dave.
Oh, okay, cool.
No, it was nothing really. It was one of those things. But yeah, I've been around for ages.
Well, thanks for joining us. Glad you could, and hopefully you can join us again in the future.
Yeah, it all depends.
Definitely seen the name around, though. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Graham, it looks like you got yourself a new controller. You want to talk about it?
I did, thanks to you guys. I was looking for like a Parma replacement, not something cheaper, not into Professor Motor stuff yet. And thanks to you fellas on here, I got these from England. And they were decent price, even with shipping and stuff. They probably a little more robust than even the cheaper Parmas. So these arrived the other day. They actually came pretty quick. I remember we talked about it probably 3 weeks ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
But these came pretty quick. They seem like they'll do the job for me. So
that's what I use the DSPM model for my club racing. I bought one. I bought actually the first one Alan had. I bought it in Germany from him, and I've used it. I stopped racing with really high end like a Brown Eye or a DeFalco or whatever. I sold all mine. Well, I still have my DeFalco, but I don't use. I use the cheaper controllers now myself.
Yeah, no, this is exactly what I wanted for my setup, and I still haven't bought a power supply. I know I've been looking at those cheaper tattoo power supplies, but they only seem to be about 2 amp. I thought about getting one for each lane, but then I realized I can get a nice, inexpensive power supply under $100 with 5 amps, totally variable. So I think one of those will be in my future. I'll get that pretty quick.
Well, those controllers look really good, Graham, and you didn't have to put it together.
No, I didn't. And actually, I wondered because in the description, it didn't say it came. It looked like it was just the replacement parts. So I did write to them, and actually, while we were talking on that forum a few weeks ago, I wrote to them right at the time, and I got an answer even before we finished our Zoom meeting. Like whether it was just the guts inside, because when you read the ad, it just sort of seems like it was all the replacement parts. But no, they came back as they're a full controller. I haven't put the alligator clips on yet, but and it looks like they'll do the job. Looks like they're made pretty solid.
They are. I've used mine for years now, and I really love it. Never had a problem with it.
Well, Parma not being in that business anymore, I think they left a hole right in the middle of the market there.
Looks like DS filled it. Dave, was you Brown Eye earlier?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of third eye controllers. Those things, I've had a lot of issues with the wiper board lifting off and the grunge kind of packing in between the segments. And I got rid of it a while ago, and I realized that spending $250, $300 on a controller didn't really help me all that much. When I got a $100 controller, I was just as shitty a driver. So there you go. It's I've actually I do a lot of online gaming, and the games have actually helped me maybe a little more with my hand-eye coordination, because I've gone from being bottom of the pack kind of a guy at the club that I may still race with, I'm not really sure, to being near the top third of guys now. So I don't know if that's helped me or not, or if it just feels like it, but the DS controller is more than up to the task. I don't like fast motors anyway, so anytime any long hand motors come out or anything about a 21,000 RPM or higher, I tend to not really want to race anyway. So if it's a mild motor, I'm all about that. So that the cars that John was showing us earlier with the show that he makes with the slow motors, I'm all about those Ninco classics, man. The NC1 and the the slow hawk motors. I love those things. So yeah, the controller doesn't really help me that much.
And you're saying,
and you know, to your point, Dave, they're a lot more fun to drive and even to have some fun with.
Yeah, we at my club we've all but stopped racing 1/32 scale stuff, and it's mainly H&R chassis, 1/25 scale hard bodies with like an 18K motor in them, and we race at like 10 volts. So we're already racing a slow motor, fairly slow. And the fact that, you know, all the cars are really evenly matched because, you know, they're all slow and heavy means that, you know, even the fastest guy is, you know, he's not 10 laps ahead of everybody by the time we're done with the race. You know, it's a little more parity, and a lot more fun. We've essentially given up racing all of the super fast stuff like slotted and NSR and all that stuff. We don't even touch those cars anymore because it's just too fast for us. So.
and what kind of DS controller do you use?
Just the PM, the basic one. Also,
No knobs?
No, it has knobs. It has exactly, yeah. But it's just, I mean, it's a very basic controller. I forget what it's like the $120 one that they sell. It's not the cheapest one, but it's not a, you know, it's not a very high end. Exactly, that one that Dennis has.
Yeah.
Yeah, the PM model.
Yeah, brakes and sensitivity is really all you need.
Yeah, and it's good enough. I used it for for some of the last 24-hour race that I did in Michigan last year, and then I switched to my friend Scott's. I think he had a new DeFalco that I might have used, but anyway, yeah. But that's the controller that I use. The PM. That's it. It's great.
It's a very nice controller. It has the PM handles, the DS handles are very nice.
I agree.
They're a little longer than the palmers. If you're one of these guys like me that's got big hands.
No, I got tiny hands.
They fit better.
I got little teeny tiny hands.
Yeah, you and me together.
What are the two knobs for?
One is for sensitivity. One is for brakes. So basically, the brake knob, the red one, you can dial out how much brake the car has as you hit you can't dial in extra brake, but you can always dial out the brakes. So if you have a car with a motor or with gearing that's giving you too much brake, meaning it's locking up the rear tires at the end of the long straightaways, and you're getting that chip 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 that they make with that little shudder or chatter. Or if you've got long sweeping turns where you don't want to hit the brake that hard, you could turn the brake down so that the car coasts a little bit more as it gets into the turn. So that's the one thing. And then the other, the blue knob on this one, which they call power, is basically sensitivity. And what it means is it controls how sensitive the controller is right at the beginning of the stroke, so that the car doesn't jump away from a start or from low speed, so that you can have more movement on the controller for less speed on the track, and it just makes the car more controllable.
So it's a bit more progressive, I guess, when you get on the throttle.
Yeah, what it does basically is it gives you more of a hockey stick. In other words, instead of a linear relationship between the movement of the throttle of the trigger and the speed of the car, it kind of flattens that, and then towards the top end of the stroke, then you get the extra power again. So it allows you much better control in low speed and mid speed corners.
And thank you for the Canadian analogy. I appreciate that.
The other good thing about the sensitivity, John, is that if you're using a resistor controller, you need three or four resistors, depending on what motors you're using. With a sensitivity knob and an electronic controller, you can basically make an NC1 motor, a 14K motor, feel like a 30,000 RPM. Like you can, adjust the sensitivity so they will all work throughout the full range of the controller lever power band. So if you run a bunch of different classes, it's a really good thing to do. If you're just, running one thing, it really doesn't matter, a great deal what you're doing. And if you're doing what Dave's doing now, which is running, 18K motors and H&R 24 scale chassis that weigh close to 200 grams, all you need is 2 bare wires to touch together for a lot.
They say a doorbell knob would do. Yeah.
We actually had a guy use a screwdriver one night between the poles on the controllers, the driver station. He just shorted it with a screwdriver, and annoyingly, he did fairly well.
I got some old Revell stuff from the '60s might work. I don't know.
Yeah, those things generally the resistance is quite high on those. So a lot of the stock motors that we run will be okay, but anything above about 25K and those ones get a little twitchy. Yeah. You get nothing at the bottom end and everything at the top. It makes it a little difficult. But you could go down a rabbit hole with controllers.
Yeah, that's what I did basically.
Oh,
so I'm not doing that again.
I've done that. Currently, I think I have about, if you include the ones in my vintage collection, probably about 40 controllers.
Mm.
A lot of those, Greg, don't laugh. A lot of those are vintage. Like I have 3 old Cox controllers, and I have 3 old MRRC, the little round blue barrel controllers.
It's a collection.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I got a bunch of those. I got 3 Palmer turbos, and a whole bunch of things like that. But race controllers.
Have you tried any of the Vario 16 controllers?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
That was a Ninco.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Most of the controllers that I've been running is for 124 scale retro, and then for Eurosport and GT12 and things like that. So it's running much stronger motors, but those things get to be expensive. Dave was talking about third eyes. I had a third eye at one stage. It was like a $450 controller, which I bought used from a friend, sent it back to Howard for an upgrade. Never could get used to it. Never could get happy with it. Sold it off again to somebody else. Got my money back, fortunately. But I've had a lot of others: Carsteins, DeFalco's, Ruddocks. The True Speed controllers from England is what I use now as my go-to controller.
I've got a Scorpio, a wireless.
Yeah.
And it, like when I build a track, I can walk around the track and try driving from different spots.
Yep, nice.
It's a really nice controller, but you can't leave the batteries in it. It just drains.
I'm sorry. I've never heard of a third eye controller. What is that?
It's made by a fellow by the name of Howard Smith up in the Bay Area of California, and they are the weapon of choice for a lot of the flat track ISRA and 124 scale slot car races. The guys who run Eurosport cars and things like that. And they're very, the cheapest third eye is like around $250 or so, I think. And then they go up to the top end models are close on $1,000 now.
Well, I can relate because I've had really expensive racing shoes and they've done nothing for me.
Yeah.
Well, as they always say, it's still the same idiot at the end of the controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's true. So, Chris, what have you been working on lately, Chris?
What have I been working on? Mostly some 24 scale vintage cars. I just finished a McLaren M1B that turned out rather spectacularly.
And don't be modest now.
Yeah, no. And a few cars for maybe or maybe not upcoming proxies. Who knows if they're going to be? I'm sort of trying to push against the proxies at this point in time. I don't think it's a good idea to have them.
So what the proxies I imagine are 1/32 scale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is actually a 1/24 scale proxy coming up end of August. It's just a 3-race event that's being held in Michigan and I think Indiana and in Chicago. 3 races. And Chris, you might be interested. You should have a look for it on Facebook or on Slotblog, because what they're doing is it's not really a retro chassis, because they are mandating that you use a certain number of vintage parts like drop arms and vintage guides and vintage motor bracket, and then the rest of the car is up to you. Plus they have specified 3 bodies only, none of which is a TI-22, which means that there's a little bit of variety for a change in retro.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be quite fun. I've just finished building mine, and they look a little bit more vintage. Hold on, I'll get it.
Hey, Chris, why did you think the proxies weren't a good idea?
Just because most of them are in the States right now, and I just really don't want to send a car and be responsible for guys having to get together and have a race.
All right, so Chris, this is what it is. This particular one has a Lancer Ferrari 612 body.
Yeah.
And the chassis is that part of the rules say you have to use this drop arm.
Okay.
You have to use the bracket that they provide. There's only one motor to be used. You have to use, it's a standard old.
It just looks like a Parma Homeset guide, eh?
Yeah, it's a jet flag actually. It's
yeah, okay,
one of
yeah,
the originals. Wheels and tires are free, gears are free, and so they weigh in at about 100 and I think this one weighs like 107 or 110, which is pretty much right for a flat track. So we'll see how it goes.
Now, are there lots of chassis constraints, or it's just basically the guide arm and the drop and the bracket?
There are a couple of constraints. Obviously, the width is a constraint as always. The clearances are the same constraints as normal. The only other constraint is that there can only be a single rail or a dual rail each side.
You can use wire, right?
Yeah, it's wire. Yeah, you can use wire or brass,
okay.
and only either a single rail or a double rail. You can't go for these multi-rail cars. So this one is just a single rail of 078 each side, and I only soldered the drop arm right up at the front here. So from about there all the way back to there, there's no solder. So it gets a bit of flex, yeah.
Okay. And what are you using? Your JKs or Falcons or something like that?
They are the Mid-America Retro Eagle.
Okay, perfect.
And you have to use a 9-tooth pinion. So. And
rubber's open, right?
The rear tire, yes, the foam is open.
Okay.
That's jet rubber from P.A. Watson in Houston that I've got on mine. So that's the story. You were talking about controllers. You want something, John? Where are you? All right. So this is a controller out of Latvia by a fellow by name of Cobus. It's a Cobus controller. This is one of the top European controllers for Eurosport racing. It has brake, it has a choke, it has brake, the resistor, that's the sensitivity. It has a traction control, it has a choke, and it has what's called an anti-brake. Right.
Where do you plug the guitar in?
No, down the bottom, at the other end of it is this.
Oh, there you go.
Right? So, the only thing it doesn't do, Lloyd, is make the coffee. Yeah, so this one I only have because a friend of mine in South Africa bought it, and when he stopped racing, he offered it to me at a price that I couldn't refuse. Brand new, I would not be buying one of these. They're about, I think now they're about $800 or $900.
Well, at least it's not complex.
Yeah, it's interesting. It takes a little bit of time to learn how to set it. I bought it particularly because I was interested in trying this feature that they call anti-brake, and
that might just be because it came from the Eastern Bloc, and that's what they used to get out.
Yeah, well, if you run a lot of HO, you know about anti-brake because in HO racing they call it coast. The cars that they run in top end HO racing that have lots and lots and lots of magnetic downforce, when you let off the power, they stop within like 3 millimeters, and so you actually have to dial in a little bit of forward voltage so that the car can coast.
Keep going, right?
Yeah, so that it will coast into a turn, so that you can get a decent flow through the turns, because you can't brake and get back on the throttle quick enough to make it smooth. And so this anti-brake that's on this controller is very similar, and you use it for some of the classes of cars where the motors just have too much inherent braking. The magnets are too strong for the armature and the weight of the car, and so that helps a lot to be able to dial out the brake. You can go. I've seen 4 or 5 tenths of a second a lap better times using the anti-brake than without the anti-brake on a 4-second lap. You go from 4.4 to 3.9 quite easily just by taking out all that brake.
Wow.